Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. Michael Jordan. The name that once belonged only to the hardwood, to the air above the rim, now belongs to something far bigger. Because Jordan didn't just change basketball, he changed the definition of what an athlete could be. And today, he stands as the billionaire legend who rewrote the playbook on greatness. Think about this for a moment. It's been more than 2 decades since he last played in an NBA game. Yet, his name still sells out arenas. His shoes still spark lines outside stores. His brand still moves billions of dollars every year. No other retired athlete in history has maintained this kind of power. No one. And what makes his story so unique is that his dominance didn't end with his final buzzer. It simply shifted. He left the court, but he never left the game. He just started playing on a different floor, one made of boardrooms, billion-dollar contracts, and global influence. Let's start with one of the boldest moves of his life: owning a team. In 2010, Jordan became the first former NBA player to become a majority owner of an NBA franchise. He bought the struggling Charlotte Bobcats, later renamed the Hornets. At the time, critics said it was a risky investment. The team was losing games. Attendance was low. Value wasn't rising fast. But Jordan didn't back down. He had a vision, and he waited. For over a decade, he held on, while the NBA's value exploded thanks to TV deals, global expansion, and new media rights. Then, in 2023, he made his move. Michael Jordan sold his majority stake in the Hornets for nearly $3 billion. To put that in perspective, he had originally invested around $275 million, his profit, over $2.5 billion. One of the greatest financial wins in sports history. And just like that, Michael Jordan showed the world that his greatness wasn't trapped in highlight reels. He could dominate the business game too. But the Hornets' sale is only part of the story. The real empire began with one shoe. Back in 1984, Nike wasn't the giant it is today. It was a company looking for a breakthrough, and Michael Jordan was just a rookie, fresh out of North Carolina. No one knew what was about to happen. When Nike signed Jordan and released the first Air Jordans, the world changed overnight. The shoes didn't just sell, they created hysteria. Lines outside stores, fans begging for restocks. Streetwear suddenly had a king. Decades later, Jordan brand is still unstoppable. It generates over $5 billion every year, and Jordan himself earns more than $250 million annually from it. Let that sink in. A man who hasn't played a professional game since 2003 is still making more than most active NBA superstars, just from his name. That's not just business, that's cultural immortality. Because Air Jordans aren't just sneakers, they're a statement, a symbol of style, excellence, rebellion, and aspiration. From basketball courts in Chicago to music videos in Los Angeles, from the streets of Paris to the playgrounds of Manila, the Jumpman logo is everywhere, and that's the power of Michael Jordan. He's not just an athlete who retired. He's a brand that lives in every corner of the world. But here's the most fascinating part. Jordan doesn't chase attention. Unlike today's stars who live on Instagram, who rely on Twitter to stay relevant, Jordan barely posts at all. He stays silent. He keeps private. Yet, somehow, his silence makes him louder, because true legends don't need noise. Their presence speaks for them, and that's why, even now, at over 60 years old, he's still the measuring stick. LeBron James has more points. Kobe Bryant had his own legendary moments. Younger stars are rewriting records every season, but the question remains the same. Are they Jordan? No other player in history is the standard like he is. And part of that comes from his mindset, Michael Jordan's competitive fire is the stuff of legend. Former teammates talk about how he treated every practice like the NBA Finals, how he invented rivalries just to fuel himself, how losing wasn't an option in anything. Cards, golf, even friendly shooting games. That mentality didn't stop when he retired. It followed him into business. Because the same man who once said, "I can accept failure, but I can't accept not trying," now applies that philosophy to every deal, every venture, every empire he builds. And that's why he became something no athlete had ever been before, a billionaire not just by endorsement, but by empire. Not just by fame, but by strategy. Think about his global reach. The NBA today is a worldwide product, and much of that is because of Jordan. Before him, basketball was mostly America's game. After him, it became universal. In Europe, kids wore Bulls jerseys. In Asia, people lined up for Air Jordans. In Africa, they played on dirt courts yelling, "Jordan," as they took their shots. He turned a sport into a language that everyone could speak. And then came The Last Dance in 2020, a Netflix documentary that gave fans a look inside his legendary run with the Bulls. It became one of the most watched sports documentaries of all time, and it proved something powerful. Even decades later, the world still can't get enough of Michael Jordan. But maybe the most important part of his story isn't the money, the titles, or the sneakers. It's the blueprint he left behind. Before Jordan, athletes were just players. They made their salaries, maybe a few endorsements, and that was it. After Jordan, everything changed. Athletes became brands. They built empires, started companies, owned teams. LeBron James, Serena Williams, Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi, all of them are following the path Jordan paved. That's what makes him the billionaire legend who changed sports forever. Because his legacy isn't only in basketball history. It's in every athlete who dares to dream bigger. It's in every kid who buys a pair of Jordans, not just for fashion, but for the feeling of greatness they represent. And here's the truth. One day, the records may be broken. The stats may fade. New champions will rise. But greatness isn't just about numbers, it's about impact, and Michael Jordan's impact will never fade. He changed how we play. He changed how we dress. He changed how we think about money, power, and possibility. He showed us that an athlete doesn't have to stop winning when the game ends, because in the end, the ball stops bouncing. The crowd goes home. The highlights fade. But a true legend, he never leaves the game. He becomes the game, and if Michael Jordan could rise from the hardwood to the boardroom, from a man to a movement, from a player to a billionaire, then maybe you too can take your story, whatever it is, and turn it into something the world will never forget. Because the truth is, greatness doesn't belong only to those with championships and billion-dollar deals. Greatness belongs to anyone who refuses to quit, who keeps moving forward when the world says stop. Jordan's story is larger than basketball because it shows us what happens when you carry the same fire into every season of your life. He didn't stop when the spotlight dimmed. He didn't stop when the critics doubted him. He didn't even stop when he walked away from the game he loved. Instead, he built something new. He reinvented himself. He rose again and again. And that's the lesson. You don't need to be 6'6". You don't need a jump shot that defies gravity. What you need is the courage to keep pushing, the patience to keep building, and the vision to see beyond today. Your story may not look like Michael Jordan's. It might not unfold on national TV or in front of roaring crowds, but it matters just as much, because impact isn't measured by arenas. It's measured by the lives you touch, the dreams you chase, and the legacy you leave behind. So when you feel like giving up, when the odds feel too big, remember the man who turned failure into fuel, pressure into power, and passion into an empire. If Michael Jordan could do it, then maybe, just maybe, you can too.